Evening supermarket near one of the shelves. A young man is talking on the phone with his wife. The woman is irritated and the guy is trying to justify himself. He didn't intentionally almost buy the wrong product. And his purchase of a PlayStation has nothing to do with it. And they wouldn't have been able to relax in a LKA even with that money. He went there for work, at the checkout. There are 3 people in line. The first is a man who looks a bit homeless. The cashier announces the total, and the man is short of 10 rubles. He tries to persuade the but she remains firm. So the man turns to those waiting in line. If they care about the fate of a person, they should lend him the missing amount. He asks them to think that they are all preparing for a terrible judgment, and what will they be able to tell when facing the Almighty? While the man delivers this speech, people react differently. One person leaves the line altogether. The man turns to a young guy. It seems like he's not destitute. So what are 10 rubles to him? A woman standing behind him takes out a coin. The man thanks her and says that angels won't forget her, and perhaps this act will outweigh all her sins. Then he takes out 50 rubles from his pocket and gives it to the cashier. He returns the coin too. Woman places a 10-ruble coin on the counter and tells the young guy that he will need it. The man adds that he will have something to remember in hell. The homeless man leaves and the young guy makes the payment. The cashier asks for change, 10 rubles, and he hands her the homeless man's coin. The young guy exits to an empty parking lot. He continues his phone conversation again, justifying himself for some business trip, and a woman whom his wife is jealous of. He sees the man who was sitting on the curb earlier. He approaches and gives him the coin, because he doesn't need someone else's. The homeless man asks, is he afraid of burning in the fiery Gehenna? Perhaps he believes in the Lord. The guy confesses that he's not very religious too, which the homeless man inquires. So after death, he plans to become worm food. Is that the pinnacle of his life? The guy says he's a mathematician and believes in the exact sciences. He asks if there's any evidence of God's existence. The homeless man claims there is an undeniable fact. The guy starts making fun of him and suggests taking a break from doing nothing. On the way back, the homeless man starts crying. The guy is confused about what upset him so much. He reassures the homeless man, telling him he's young and he has everything ahead of him. It's the right time to think about the future because it all depends on him. By the way, he mentioned earlier that he can provide evidence of God's existence. And the homeless man calmly says that he saw Jesus himself because he is the eternal Jew, the one who didn't let the Lord rest at his house when he was carrying his cross. He told Jesus that he would rest on the way back. Jesus agreed, but he would have to wait for him. The guy asks again. And this happened 20 years ago. The homeless man understands that it does indeed sound strange. He was amazed at first too, but then he got used to it. So for him, the existence of Jesus Christ is a fact. However, he can't prove it in any way. He didn't keep a piece of clothing that Jesus wore. And how could he prove that it wasn't a piece of his own underwear? He doesn't have the cup from which Christ drank, or the stone from under his cross. The guy concedes that the Jews saw Jesus. What was he like? The homeless man says, he was just like everyone else, only tormented. He also doesn't remember his face. The guy remembers all the faces he's seen in his life. The guy is puzzled and asks again to tell him what happened. The Jew says that Jesus was being led past his house under guard. He stopped to rest and the Jew forbade him to lean on his house. After all, he called himself the Son of God. It was outrageous. So he told him that he would rest on the way back and God ordered him to wait for him. He couldn't know who he really was and no one could. The guy asks if the Jew is ashamed that he didn't let Jesus rest. The homeless man asks, maybe that was God's plan. The guy asks if he tried to make amends for it, maybe become a clergyman, for example. The conversation partner admits that he tried that many times, but no one descended from the heavens and no indulgence was granted. The guy asks what else has he been throughout all these years, maybe an immortal killer. An immortal killer? That would be cool. The Jew objects, being immortal is cool in movies. But in real life, you need to find food, seek warmth, and wait, like waiting in line. He has already studied all the ads on the walls, all the holes in the couch. But people keep coming and going. It's no longer interesting to him who stood where in the hierarchy, whose place